We'll be, hitting that recording. Great. All right. Thank you all for attending this third and final webinar of our Migration, Security, and Regional Militancy in Sabah and the Greater Sulu Celebes Sea webinar series. This webinar is part of our broader collaborative research project entitled Divergent Dimensions of Radicalization Risk, Migration and Violent Extremism in Sabah, with ISTEC IIUM and UMS, and funded by the United States Department of State's Conflict and Stabilization Office. On behalf of myself and all of our collaborating institutions, I'd like to welcome you. I'm Dr. Katie Lindquist at the National Consortium for the Study of Terrorism and Responses to Terrorism, based at the University of Maryland. I've had the honor and pleasure to work with this international research team since mid-2019, and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to open the session where we can finally share with you all of the great work that this team has accomplished. All of us at the three institutions involved in this collaboration have been faced with numerous challenges, many of which were the result of the ongoing global COVID-19 pandemic. Without the immense passion and dedication to research on these crucial topics for local, regional, and indeed global security, today's session and the previous webinars in this series, which showcase the independent and collaborative work of the entire team, would not have been possible. As a way of contextualizing today's webinar, I'd like to take a moment to review some of the highlights of the first two sessions. In the first webinar, there was a series of presentations that focused heavily on the how of research. These how questions, how research is and was conducted in the field for this study, how international research collaboration looks from an administrative and organizational perspective, and how COVID-19 has impacted research design and considerations for the protection of human subjects and researchers are all crucially important issues. At the same time, some aspects of research management and research design are sometimes underappreciated topics. I would therefore like to encourage anyone who was unable to attend the first webinar to take a moment in the coming days to review that session and even watch the video from last week's presentation, which is also available on START's website, the link for which either has been or will be distributed. When proper care and preparation is taken, the research that is ultimately conducted has the best opportunity to provide real insight into complex issues like security, migration, and extremism. The second webinar in this series saw our distinguished presenters from both ISTEC IIUM and UMS providing just these kinds of insights, based both on their extensive knowledge and expertise and the new findings from the most recent round of research work. These talks provided an overview of both historical and recent socio-political dynamics in Sabah and the surrounding region, with a particular emphasis on the southern Philippines. Taken together, these dynamics are the context in which security challenges in the Sulu Celebes Sea and regional and local security responses are actually taking place. Thus, today's third and final session will fittingly focus even more directly on these security challenges and the responses at the state government and regional levels. I imagine you are all as eager as I am to get to today's presentation, so thank you for allowing me to make these opening remarks. And I now have the honor and pleasure to hand over the remainder of this session to today's moderator, Ms. Anisa Zadi from IIUM ISTEC, who will introduce our speakers and guide our discussion. Thank you again and welcome.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Actually, I would be the moderator for today, taking over from Anis. Thank you very much. Okay, so I would like to welcome all of you. And first of all, very good morning and a very good evening to all of you. Thank you very much for attending this discussion today. So as Dr. Catherine has mentioned earlier, this is a continuation from two other series that we have. That is the first series discussing about the aspect of the how aspect of the research, and the second part was about the situation, the general situation in Sabah. Today we are going to have a more exciting discussion. We are going to have three panelists today who is going to speak. That is Dr. Nur Hafiza Nur Adin Nur Ahmad from UMS, and also Associate Professor Wan Shawaluddin from UMS as well, and Dr. Ramli, all of them actually from UMS. We are going to tackle a different topic today. So without any further ado, I would like to invite Adin. She is going to speak on the regional militancy in Sulu Celebes Sea. Please welcome.
Right. Thank you, Kathy, and thank you, Dr. Ahmad. Jagrup, can you display my slide, please? Right. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Good morning and assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And also good evening those in the States. So my name is Hafizan Radin. I'm from Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities, Universiti Malaysia Sabah. So inshallah, today I'm going to talk about regional militancy in the Greater Sulu Celebes Sea. So yeah, today I'm going to talk threats that exist in the Sulu Celebes Sea, which covers the greater regions in Sabah, southern Philippines, and part and parcel a little bit way down there to Kalimantan. Next slides, please. So for today's presentation, I'm going to highlight several main discussion. This discussion is based on our K2 Elite interview findings and also some supplemented by open sources. So the first question of today's presentation is, what is the regional threat in the Greater Celebes Sea? In what way intra-relation among key social actors in the Southern Philippines affects the greater security in Sulu Celebes Sea? What are the security threats in Sabah? Who are the Malaysian non-state actors that were involved in foreign militancy in Sulu Celebes Sea? How serious is the maritime crime terrorism nexus in Sulu Celebes Sea? So basically in this presentation, I would like to bring the audience on the broader security threats, not only covering Sabah, but also to the extent of Southern Philippines. And based on our discussion from day 2 webinar, we've concluded that the security situation in Sabah relies heavily within the context of geopolitical security in Southern Philippines. This is why, in order for us to understand how can we safeguard, how can we understand the level of threat that might happen in Sabah, we have to look as well the political stability and security in Southern Philippines. Next slide, please. And one of the key limitation of this research is because we are conducting the research right in the beginning of the pandemic in February 2020. So our resources is heavily relies on elite interviews only, but in addition to that, which we have already highlighted during first day of the webinar, one of the strengths having to conduct elite interview through online is that we are able to gather as much as possible elite outside Malaysia in particular. So this actually one of the benefit and one of the strength of this research, despite that we are unable to conduct interview with a non-elite participant in Sabah. So in this slide, this is two different maps. One is from Global Terrorism Database. It shows geospatial mapping on terrorism incidents in the Sulu Celebes Sea, in the Greater Sulu Celebes Sea. So as we can see in the Southern Philippines, there has been high incident terrorism attack. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, Philippines is one of the 9 highest terrorism index according to Global Terrorism Database. But just bear in mind that I would like to also point out that these terrorism incidents include such as bombing, some level of criminal activities as well. So and then in the next map, this is a location of maritime crime and abduction in the Greater Sulu Celebes Sea, including in the east coast of Sabah. I will elaborate further on the next slide. But as we can compare within these two slides, although that Southern Philippines is very proximate to east coast of Sabah, the level of violent attacks in Sabah is almost close to zero. except of course we have that Lahat Datu intrusion. And other than that, we don't really have any existence of violent attacks, especially coming from domestic group. Second slide, please. Okay, first, I would like to bring the audience on the discussion. How do we identify regional threat in Sulu Celebes Sea? So based on our readings and our preliminary finding, there are 5 regional threats in Sulu Celebes Sea, which is maritime crime terrorism, involving kidnapping for ransom groups operating in southern Philippines. In recent years, they've been targeting sea vessel and also fisheries activities. Also, we have crime borders, including smuggling activities, drugs, firearms, and also human trafficking. We also have elements of transnational insurgency and movements of foreign terrorist fighter. They fled to southern Philippines seeking hideouts or fled from exile. And also some of them fled to southern Philippines to support local militant group and to provide some militant training. I will elaborate further as well in the next slide. Then we have domestic militancy in both region in southern Philippines and also in Sabah. But I will also elaborate further how serious is this threat, especially in the context of Sabah. Then, of course, we have regional groups such as Jemaah Islamiyah and also Jamaah Ansharut Daulah. In the previous webinar day 2, we've already highlighted the security situation in the southern Philippines, and I would like to reiterate again that the development, especially with the bomb process, will most likely impacting the greater security in Sabah. And then in this recent year, especially since 2020, there have been a very rapid changing development, especially with inter and intra-faction relation between MILF and also MNLF. And this somehow affects the bomb process. Other than that, other groups such as ASG, pro-ISIS faction, and outside actors such as JAD, ever since the Marawi Siege, they have been highly, the AFP, the Philippines military forces, they've been effectively managed to contain the elements of this militant outfit. But this also comes from several factors, which I will elaborate later as well. Again, with security forces in the southern Philippines, we have the AFP confronted with several challenges such as division and also sometimes conflicting of interest among different sectors within the AFP. Other than that, they've been also doing a good job, especially in introducing such as prevention counter violent extremism. They recently conducting this PCVE program in Basilan, which I think is very great to detain the influence of such as ISIS ideology. And then with the bomb process, we have the region is facing clan politics and also conflicting interests among different actors, which I think it's going to make the bomb process very fragile. And when bomb process is fragile, it's going to affect the broader security and probably might be exploited by other militia outfits. And this, of course, gonna affect Sabah. And in the last webinar, we've already also discussed about in what way Sabah has been exploited by these elements of militia because of its porous border, close ties, and also irregular migration. Next slide, please. Okay, I think one of the most interesting findings about our research is that most of our elite participants, they've been mentioning about the IMLF who led bomb, and also the struggle with the Sulu faction. So there has been a growing sentiment among Sulu faction, not only by such as by Governor Abdul Sakutan, but also by MNLF led by the former Jikiri. So such as Sakutan, he's been pursuing the Sulu representation in BAM, albeit BAM rather view this as an intervention from Sakutan. So why does this happen? So one of the factor that we have to understand here is that there has been imbalance of ethno-representation in BAM. The Sulu people, they feel marginalized. They feel that they do not have an adequate representation within the BAM governance, and they feel that certain ethnics such as Maguindanao and Maranao, they have been predominantly conquered the BAM process. And in response to this, MILF stated that the Sulu people actually never supported them since the beginning of the peace process. So Sulu faction, not only Abdul Sakutan, but also some faction within MNLF, they've been seeking to increase further Sulu representation within BAM. I hope if you haven't attended the second day of webinar, Prof. Wan, he've already highlighted the geopolitical setting in Southern Philippines, and my presentation is just looking at the recent trend development and how this recent development in Southern Philippines, it's impacting on Sabah and also Malaysia in general. And then one of also the key problem within BAM governance is that they relied on the Philippine armies and also Philippines police, because this is one of the arrangement with the federal government, in which that the security sector will be controlled by the Philippines government. Also, although that there has been brought decommissioning MILF fighters since 2019, not all MILF fighters have surrendered their guns because of unpredictable situation. And definitely this do not resolve long-term potential issues such as existence of future militancy. And then, of course, lastly is about the MNLF new factionalism. Since the death of its most prominent leader, Jikiri, have demonstrated the status quo within MILF, meaning to say, while MILF leading the governance process of the BAM, it was the MNLF that has more influence over military sector in the broader Southern Philippines. Next slide, please. So this is based on our interview and also paper from IPAC. The development of the Moro National Liberation Front, there has been a leadership rivalry and faction, and also ethno-clan division. So since the death of its main leader, Tong Jikiris, there has been an increased support for pro-Mizwari. Mizwari is an older leader of MNLF. He's a founder of MNLF, and he didn't gain popularity over the years, but recently he has been popularized again thanks to such as support from President Duterte, because Duterte wants an alternative of federalism to balance the presence of BAM. So Duterte basically want to introduce a sort of like a federalism just in case if BAM is halted. And within MNLF, there has been a division leadership between the Sulu within MNLF and also between Muslim and Sema. So Muslim and Sema is one of the prominent leader within MNLF. And unfortunately, since the death of Jikiris, some of main actors within MNLF, there has been growing sentiments disfavoring Muslim in Sema because of his ethnicity. They feel that Muslim in Sema is orientating towards MILF and most likely protecting only the interests of Maguindanao people because of his ethnicity. He's not Sulu, he's not a Tausu people. And then we have to understand this development because legacies of the former leader of MNLF, Jikiri, he is a Tausu. He always tried to push an image for the MNLF as a Tausu oriented. Also, like I said, Sema has lacked popularity among the Tausu people because of his ethnicity. So I think the development in MNLF posed a fragile relationship with BAM in the sense that MNLF somehow has the military strength because of its large membership, more than 5,000 people around southern Philippines, and also it has a close affiliation with the Philippines military. And MNLF has been taking the ethnic kidnapping task force targeting to clamp down kidnappings activities and related crimes in the southern Philippines. So in a way that the MNLF has some sort of like presence or influence over with the Philippine military. Also, the MNLF seems to have strong civilian support. So especially within the Sulu region. And of course, due to this factor, although that in papers such as IPEC stated that because of the death of Jikiri, the paper in IPEC stated that this might likely increase support for militancy among MNLF members. But based on my findings with elite interview, this is the opposite, in which that because of MNLF's neutral position and also strong military relationship with the AFP, this would become a token, a model for them to actually support for the peace process. The question now is MNLF might be another competing actors for the MILF. So other than factions such as led by Governor Abdul Sakutan, he's not MNLF, but they do share same interest. Governor Sakutan in Sulu, he shares some interest with the MNLF, in which they try to increase the Sulu representation in BAM. And other than that, the only threat that remains crucial here is the existence of Tahir Salih's followers with his 200 fighters in Holo. They were trapped since Jikiri's death. They have no protection and they might be exploited by Abu Sayyaf. But also we have to think in a more optimistic way that there could be a decommissioning efforts by the Philippine military, because if they join the ASG, this could be a fatal move for them as well, because of the strong counterterrorism initiative by the Philippines military. Next slide, please. So this is basically map. It's from ACAP. It's not my map. We have the broader map here about on the southern Philippines and dominant group that present in these areas. So such as in Zamboanga to Basilan to Tawi-Tawi, we have several various actors such as Abu Sayyaf, MNLF, MILF. In Central Mindanao, we have MILF, BIFF, In Eastern Mindanao, we have Communist Party of the Philippines. Southern Mindanao, we have several militia group as well. And in Northern Mindanao, we have ISIS faction. But I think the recent developments since, especially after the Marawi Siege, some of these groups have been dismantled, although they're most likely still members exist within the region. Next slide, please. So I think it's for Sabah, our main concern is particularly with the Abu Sayyaf group. We've been confronting the threat, especially kidnapping from the SG since 1990s. So SG is a splinter group of MILF. And it was coined as ASG Abu Sayyaf in honor of Abdul Rasul Sayyaf, an important figure to Osama bin Laden during the Afghan War. And then it was founded by Abdul Razak Janjalani, who established the ASG in 1991. It comprised of former members of MNLF, MILF who were disgruntled with the MNLF secular approach and MILF's Islamist policy. So this is why this group exists. However, the SG turned into a later terrorist organization with the changes of crime activities to terrorism, such as assassination, bombing, and also predominantly kidnapping for ransom. This is why there has been few articles, even PhD thesis concentrating on SG, and they use a conceptual framework such as SG as a crime terrorism nexus. And as early as 1991 to 2000, SG has resorted to violence and crime, which resulted to 378 terrorist activities and killing of 280 civilians. But this could be more because this is an old statistic. And of course, since the death of Janjalani, the SG have broke into two factions. The faction in Sulu operating different than the Basilan. Next slide, please. So this is the Basilan faction of the SG, and then we have also Sulu faction, Sulu faction of the SG, and then the next picture is the Eastern Sulu based SG. So meaning to say, it was earlier this year in May, there has been the Malaysian authority released photos of detained SG members operating in the west coast of Sabah. So they used to be, fled to east coast of Sabah, and perhaps even turn Sabah as their hideouts. But apparently, the recent development showed that this element has moved into the west coast of Sabah. Next slide, please. This is, I think, our main concern with the threat in the Greater Sulu Celebes Sea, which is a maritime crime terrorism nexus. So, like I said earlier, ASG's activities has been concentrated especially on kidnapping. So, ASG have connection with KFRG or kidnapping for ransom groups in southern Philippines, and they often targeted Sulu Celebes Sea and also east coast of Sabah to conduct these KFRG's activities. Groups such as Apo Mike, Haibil Mubin, Gezer Kamsa, Jul Hassan, Jul Ziri, Halipa, Nustar, Salipa Mura, Anjang Anjang, and Amah Ula are those affiliated with ASG. So this group acting as an executor of kidnapping activities. And of course, the SG, since they began kidnapping for ransom, their activities is predominantly because driven by money. According to recap, July 2019, there has been 29 incidents of kidnapping, predominantly targeting in the Sulu Celebes Sea in southern Philippines, and also very trivial, a very minor incident in the east coast of Sabah. Next slide, please. I think most of you who followed the global news, especially development in Philippines, I'm sure that you've encountered about the Marawi Siege. So I think I would just like to highlight again the Marawi Siege, because the Marawi Siege show that when there is instability in southern Philippines, it's impacting us in Malaysia as well, especially with regards to foreign terrorist fighter support from Malaysia to southern Philippines. The same goes with Indonesia as well. So the Marawi Siege was a 5 months battle and killed more than 1,200 people. It was a battle between the FP and the militant groups who tried to conquer Marawi and establish Islamic Caliphate in the southern Philippines. So these clashes led by the Malacca group, Abu Sayyaf, and also some of foreign terrorist groups such as Jama Ansarud Daulah from Indonesia. And then during this battle, there have been 58 AFP Philippine soldiers have been killed in the fighting. The foreign terrorist elements, mainly from Indonesia, Malaysia, and some from Yemen, Saudi, and Saudi Arabia and Chechnya. So the picture of the guy here, that looks like an Arab guy, is from Morocco. And this is pictures of the foreign terrorist fighters during the Marawi Siege. Next slide, please. Okay, when we talk about foreign terrorist fighter in southern Philippines, what are they? First of all, the trend that we've seen in this recent year, they tend to be a pro-ISIS group. Some of them, like the Malaysian counterpart, they fled to southern Philippines not because they want to go there, but they want to run from the Malaysian exile. But some of them traveled specifically to southern Philippines because they want to provide militant training for the local militia, and also the adaptation of the tactical insurgency. Particularly, they try to train this local militant in southern Philippines on the making of IED, a type of a bomb. And also, we can see that a local militant outfit connection with the FTF activities, especially those that are leaning towards the pro-ISIS group. However, based on my findings, it shows that this group do not limit their activities within, such as within the Marawi Siege to establish Islamic Caliphate alone, but also they expand their activities, which includes crime as well, such as kidnapping. And we can see, such as during the Marawi Siege, the Indonesian, they showed their strong support for the Marawi, the Jama Ansarud Daulah, they sent 40 of its members during the Marawi Siege. And then we have several examples here, the SG elements in foreign terrorist fighter, BIF elements in foreign terrorist fighter, Daulah Islamiyah elements foreign terrorist fighter.
Time?
All right,
Maybe
okay. 2
2-3 more
minutes.
minutes.
All right, okay, thank you for the reminder. All right, I'll be quick as possible. So the Philippines government introduced Anti-Terrorism Act of 2020 and used its Anti-Terrorism Council Resolution number 13, 2020 to identify terrorists, which includes all groups regardless their nationalities. And we can see, like I said earlier, there has been city counter PCVE program concentrated in the in Basilan area. Next slide, please. Okay, the features of Malaysian FTF, Malaysian foreign terrorist fighter in the southern Philippines, this is their features. They tend to be a lone wolf rather than move as a group. We can see in the 1990s that the Mantiki 1 of Jemaah Islamiyah, which led by Malaysian, fled also to southern Philippines en route via Sabah. So they fled to southern Philippines using the Sabah route, and this is why the development in southern Philippines is crucial for us because we are suspecting that those who fled, such as from Indonesia, also use Sabah as a route to fled to southern Philippines. The Marawi Siege shows only there has been trivial involvement of the Malaysians such as Jamil and Ahmad bin Amin Bajo. The Malaysian also, they receive support and local protection from local militant outfits such as the SG. Because of cultural differences between Malaysia and Philippines, these individuals, they adapted the local cultural in southern Philippines, such as learning their local language and as well as marrying to local people here. So one of the Malaysian terrorists here, such as Muhammad Najib Hussein, he married to a Filipino lady. Next slide, please. VE, how about the VE? I think this would be going to be my last presentation, my last slide, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So how about the context of VE and militancy threat in Sabah? How serious it is? So based on our findings, we argue that there has been low or minuscule presence of domestic Islamic VE groups operating inside Sabah that does not have outside involvement, although these findings can be contested. So the first group is Darul Islam Sabah. It has influence origins from Darul Islam Indonesia in 1990s, but it has been fully dismantled by the Malaysian authority. It has small capacity as well. And then in recent years, this is just a prima facie analysis, meaning to say it's a premature finding. We do not have a concrete evidence stating that this group truly exists, and we are still trying to build our conclusion in concrete evidence whether this group exists. This group predominantly comprised of local population, not really of Filipinos. And some sources stated that this is actually a DI cell from Indonesia sneaking into the east coast of Sabah. Regional militancy present in Sabah is far more significant, albeit their threat remains under control because of the strong security approach by the Malaysian government. So we have seen, like I repeat again, the JI in Malaysia, they use Sabah as a transit. And then, of course, we have ASG operating in Sabah this year. Next slide, please. Okay, final thoughts. So how do we conceptually define the threat in Sabah towards Sulu Celebes Sea? Should there be a conceptual departing violent extremism threat and instead regionally crime, terrorism, nexus to explain the phenomenon in the region? My answer is yes. I think conceptually, as an academic, I would rather use regional crime, terrorism nexus instead of violent extremism to explain the nature of militancy threats in the Greater Sulu Celebes Sea. We have to as well analyze here what are the impact of the rise of the Taliban towards regional crime, terrorism nexus in the region, in southern Philippines, in Indonesia, and how it affects Malaysia. Third, how serious is the Abu Sayyaf recent presence in Sabah? Is that it is in for the buffet? And will southern Philippines become an attractive destination for foreign terrorist fighters, especially with the rise of the Taliban? And will stability with the current faction, division, and rivalries within the bomb process, will stability and security in southern Philippines can be achieved? So I ended my presentation today with a picture of Pulau Gaya. Pulau Gaya, there are few water villages here. It's only 20 minutes by boat to capital city of Kota Kinabalu. And this area has predominantly populated by the stateless people, illegal immigrants, and predominantly also Suluk, Tausug, and some Bajau Laut people residing in this area. So that's all. Thank you, moderator, for the reminder.
Thank you very much, Dane. I'm sure that many people are going to ask you a lot of questions. If you want to ask the presenter's question, you may put the question in the chat box, but please be brief so that we don't have trouble to read the question, the long question. Okay, without any further ado, now I'd like to invite the second speaker, Associate Professor Wan Shawaluddin Wan Hassan from UMS. He is going to speak on the regional and governmental responses to security challenges in the Sulu Celebes Sea. Cik Wan, please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Mr. Moderator, Dr. Ahmad Al-Muhammadi, Katie, our MC just now, and my colleague presenters, Dean, and also Dr. Ramli, and also our audience today. A very good morning and also good evening wherever you are. My presentation today will pick up from what Dean has in a couple of minutes just now presented to us. But mine, due to limitations, although the topic will be regional and governmental responses to the security challenges in Sulu Celebes Sea, however, will only look at responses from the Malaysian and also the Philippines. And basically, as already mentioned by my colleague, Ading, basically the methodology of our research is based on elite interviews, and also for this presentation, also rely on open sources available. And next. My presentation outline will be introduction, Malaysia's response, Philippines' response, and conclusion. Actually, before this presentation, I have already included, some of the issues that has been raised by Adin. However, I will not repeat what has been mentioned by Adin, but briefly, there are two issues that I think would need to be focused. One is the Philippines' claim to Sabah, which has been seen as a thorn in the flesh in Malaysia's Philippines relations ever since 1963. And the other issue is the Sultanate of Sulu claim also to Sabah. And the issue here is, if we remember 2013, when the Sulu Sultanate sent their Royal Sulu Force as a sign that the Sulu Sultanate still wanted to continue their claim to Sabah. And before I proceed further, I just would like to correct a point which has been touched by my colleague. if I'm not mistaken, Adin did mention something about Jikiri, but very unfortunate, the Jikiri that Adin mentioned in her presentation is the son rather than the Yusuf Jikiri, the father who passed away a few years ago. And Jikiri, no doubt, he's very influential, taking advantage of, you know, his position as a Tausug leader, commanding respect from the MNLF army. Next. Jay, next. Okay. Sulu Celebes Sea covers a wide area that has been shared by the Philippines, Malaysia, and also Indonesia. And one thing which I would like to share you all today is the fact that we have one economic entities which has been launched in 1994. However, it could not see success because of the long war that has been experienced by southern Philippines, or especially Mindanao. And the other thing is, with no infrastructures, it failed to, you know, attract investors to invest in Mindanao and Sulu archipelago. And if we look at the master plan, Mindanao growth area should supply, or, you know, be known as agriculture base, where it will produce tropical fruits such as banana, pineapples, and mango, as well as rice, poultry, coconut, and also mariculture. And these papers discusses and addresses Malaysia's and also Philippines' responses to the security issues in the Sulu Celebes Sea. Next, please. Okay. First of all, I would like to look at Malaysia's responses. First of all, Malaysia's responses in terms of unilateral. As a result of the kidnapping by the Abu Sayyaf group in 2000 in Sipadan, the government of Malaysia implemented ops. For instance, we have Ops Pandanan, Ops Pasir, and Ops Tayang. All these ops is a just to show how serious you know, the kidnapping affected Sabah, and what more, because Sabah depended on tourism sector. So due to that, the government responded seriously to the kidnapping incident. Although after, you know, April, a few months later, Abu Sayyaf launched another kidnapping attempt in Pandanan Island, and it resulted in all these ops launched by the government. And apart from that, in 2002, with the problems that occurred in the east coast of Sabah, the Malaysian government established what other countries coin as Coast Guard, but in Malaysia we established the Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency, and the main function of Malaysian MMEA, Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agency, is to assist the Malaysian navies and also the marine police of the country. And MMEA managed to function as another agency to guard and man Sabah's water from outside provocation. But I think the most significant thing when we talk about Malaysia's response is in 2013, after the invasion of the incursion of the Royal Sulu Force in Lahad Datu. It resulted in the establishment of ESCOM on the 7th March 2013, and its original name is Special Security Area, but later on during Sabah State's Security Committee meeting, which has been chaired by Datuk Musa Aman. Datuk Musa Aman has the Chief Minister of Sabah changed the name to ESCOM. And related to that, on the 25th of March 2013, followed by the establishment of S-Zone. S-Zone actually composed of 10 districts from Kudat to Tawau, and these 10 districts, they are under the radar of ESCOM, has the maritime enforcement of the east coast of Sabah. And one thing which is interesting is the fact that ESCOM combines several government agencies and enforcement agencies such as the Malaysian Armed Forces, Royal Malaysian Police, Maritime, Malaysian Maritime, Royal Malaysian Customs, and also the Immigration and plus other security agencies, and they are under one command system. And surprisingly, it was not the army, but it was under the commander who is the big boss for this agency, who comes from the Royal Malaysian Police. Next, Jay. Related to ESCOM is the fact that in 2014, after several kidnapping attempts by the Abu Sayyaf group and also the kidnapping for ransoms group, is the curfew that has been announced in the S zone. However, it it do not covers all the 10 districts, but only covers districts from Beluran to Tawau, minus the Kudat, Pitas, and also Kota Marudu. And the curfew that has been launched by ESCOM resulted in many attempts, kidnapping attempts by KFR groups. And one thing which is interesting is the fact that the curfew is from 6 p.m. until 6 a.m. So it means from evening to morning, and it's not a 24-hour curfew. Has normally been implemented. Next, Jay. Next is the temporary ban on pump boat. In this photo is a pump boat. Pump boat is it's like a motorcycle. Okay, motorcycle for people living, especially in water villages in Sabah, and this is also quite normal in southern Philippines because the pump boat uses the engine of the excuse me. Pump boat engine is mainly from motorcycle. Next, and this is something which you can see all the time if you visit water villages. And besides that, Malaysia also introduced, for instance, in order to replace ISA, Internal Security Act, which has been, practiced since the British era, and replace it with POCA, POTA, and also SOSMA in 2014, 2015. And beside that, ESCOM has a security agency in the east coast of Sabah. Apart from, carrying on works related to military or policing, they also applied what has been known as the non-military approach that has been applied by ESCOM. And through this actually civilian wing, okay, under ESCOM, it utilizes non-military approach, especially in engaging the communities, and the communities that are involved here. They are basically those who reside in the water village area, and apart from, also involving religious leaders and also plus Bajau Laut. This is very important due to the fact that elements from, for instance, kidnapping for ransom, they have been utilizing for based on elite interviews. They have been utilizing the presence of Bajau Laut, who are known as stateless, and they are taking advantage of the Bajau Laut in this instance. Jay, next. I've just mentioned just now. Jay, next. And apart from that, the government also, after 2013, showed that they are serious about, looking at the security aspect of the east coast of Sabah, and resulting in the 2015 budget, whereby the government allocated, for instance, 17.7 billion to the Malaysian Armed Forces, 9.1 billion to the Royal Malaysian Police, a total of 804 million, which has been allocated to the Maritime Agency. And apart from that, the government also allocated 660 million to set up 2 new battalions.
Five more minutes, sir.
I can't hear anything. Is there any problem with?
Yeah, I mean, connection.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, let us see. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I think we have to wait for a while. We have like turn off the video. Maybe, yeah. Maybe we can ask Cik Wan to off the video. Cik Wan, can you hear me? If you can hear me, then you can continue with it. We off the video. Okay. Is it the last slide, Din, or a few more slides to go for Dr. Wan?
I just call Prof Wan. He just need 1 minute. If you can give 1
Okay.
minute.
Okay,
Right.
1 minute is good. Yeah, sure. Please accept our apologies, ladies and gentlemen. There is a technical issues a bit.
Hi, Dr. Ahmad.
Yeah.
Can you pass first with Dr. Ramli, and then after Dr. Ramli conclude, and then pass to back to Prof Wan, because he is facing some technical issues on his end. He has
Okay,
a
so
few
right now
more slides to go.
Okay, so right now we continue with Dr. Ramli, or?
Yeah, Dr. Ramli, and then after Dr. Ramli end his slide, we will resume back with Prof Wan, because he has a few more slides to present. If that's
Okay.
okay. Right, okay.
All right, Dr. Ramli, you're up. I don't think that you need introduction. You have presented earlier. I now would like to invite Dr. Ramli Dola from UMS. Please welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. L.
Maybe you can switch off the video, Dr. Ramli, so that we can have more smooth presentation.
Our moderator. Okay.
Yes, go
Okay,
ahead,
today
Term.
I'll
I can hear
discuss
you.
the challenge. Hello? Hello?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah, go
We
ahead.
can hear you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, today I'll discuss the challenges in managing the issue in Sulu, especially the east coast of Sabah. Yeah, Jay, please, slide introduction. Next slide, please. Okay, cross-border crimes and other activities have taken a heavy toll on Sabah state security. It's ranging from KFR, kidnapping for ransom, foreign intrusion, fish bombing, smuggling, drugs, arms, and human trafficking, and many others. Yeah, it is a big issue also from other issues such as geographical, also human, external, regional dynamics. Yeah. Therefore, even though several measures has been taken, as discussed by Mr. Shawal, Prop 1 just now, yeah, in the form of unilateral, bilateral, or trilateral. However, threat in Sabah remain high. Yeah. Therefore, this presentation discuss the issue and this presentation is based on the elite interview and supplemented with open sources. Next slide, please. Conflict in the southern Philippines. Yeah. The most challenging issue in dealing with security issue in the area is related to the conflict in the southern Philippines. Yeah. The fact that many argue that as long as the conflict in the southern Philippines continue, Sabah will face the spillover effect, including a security threat. Yeah. So actually, several measures has been taken to bring bring peace in the southern Philippine region. Actually, it started since 1990s. Yeah, but mostly unsuccessful. For example, BAM. Yeah, recent progress show that peace process that has a long way to go. The fact that some of our respondents even argue that the peace process is getting dimmer due to the benefits, including Maguindanao-Tausug divide, the existence of the smaller groups such as PIFF, the role of warlords, and the issue of whether the new coming president is serious about peace process in the southern Philippines. And all of these factors definitely will affect the peace process in the southern Philippines. What more when BAM is underfunded due to the Philippines government financial hiccups because of the pandemic. Yeah, clearly, what happened in the southern Philippines is beyond Malaysia control. Malaysia, in this case, realized that progress in the southern Philippines remain crucial for the greater stability in Sabah, and also there is also explain why Malaysia continue since 1990s, yeah, continue to support peace because it's belief of the prosper thy neighbors, yeah, policy in which if Philippines or neighboring countries is safe, then Malaysia will. Here is the policy that's being approved by the Malaysian government. Next, please. Next slide, please. There is another challenges, yeah. Nature of Sabah economy, state over dependence of the foreign workers. As discussed last week, yeah, may always being blamed for border crime. Major issue issue, one of the issues and also in timber industry. Yeah, clearly, what what we experience today. We had different, especially in the time don't realize, but they are the one who live with us. They are the one who cook for us. They feed. They look after our children. Yeah. Apparently, they are now consistent because of overtime of the foreign workers. D. Jones called go away, come hit us policy, the increasing rate, deportation as we can see almost every with issue of border issues, yeah, border crime issue. Next. Next slide, please. Here is the plantation. Yeah, mostly 90% estimate big area. Next, J. Next, please.
I really cannot. Yeah,
In construction,
yeah. Go
next,
ahead.
please. Next slide. Okay, identity and social economic status of the coastal and island. Sabah is only what method when there is communities in between, or for example, the Bajau Laut and also other islanders, yeah, islanders communities in Sabah and Philippines borders, yeah, they live there, yeah. As I mentioned here, that there is not a new issue, but it was the legacy of the Sulu zone, yeah. They were there even before the arrival of the colonial power in these regions. Their cultural, religious, social, and linguistic similarities with those in the Philippines and also in Sabah make it easy for the criminal or extremist group to penetrate the community. What more, when poverty and undocumented status of the Bajau Laut and other communities in between these, yeah, make these people vulnerable for the exploitations. Yeah, there is one of the challenges that the government facing today. Next, please. Here is the community that I mentioned just now, the Bajau Laut, the communities in between, yeah, whether they are Bajau Laut, they are stateless people, they are the islander community, yeah, And I will discuss later that I will show you that in Semporna alone, there are more than 80 islands, yeah, in Semporna alone, and most of the islands have their own populations, yeah. Next, please. Here is the Bajau Laut, the undocumented, as I mentioned just now, their status as undocumented, their poverty make them vulnerable, yeah, make them vulnerable for exploitation by these criminal groups. Next. Next. Okay, another challenges related to geographical factors. Yeah, it's related to the Sabah vast maritime area and rough terrain in the South Celebes Sea, Sulu Celebes Sea. Yeah, a zone coastline which constitute 10 districts. Yeah, it is about 1,777 kilometers square. Yeah, with long coastline, it is difficult. Definitely, it is difficult to patrol and monitor this area. Yeah. It's become more difficult when there is a red trail which make it seems impossible for stopping migrants from coming, and difficulties in controlling them from coming, demonstrating state border policy. The fact that in 2020 Malaysian Home Minister identified 37 red trails. Yeah, the problem with red trail because it is as shutting down one red trail eventually open up many other red trail, and for this for especially for migrants to come to enter Sabah, yeah, and this is difficult for especially for the government, yeah. We close one and sand dunes in Sabah. In ice zone alone, almost 450 inhabitants island. And almost all of these islands believed to be used as a staging point by especially by the kidnapping groups and also smugglers, yeah, to come to Sabah, yeah. In so as it is also used by staging point only a few because why staging point? Because it is easy for the group, yeah, to move in and out. In the Philippines, such as Taganak, Sibutu, and Sitangkay in the southern Philippines. Pangguan Island in Philippines is only about 15 minutes, yeah, from attacking island in Semporna by boat. And it is also how difficulties the especially our enforcement agents to monitor the area along 1,770 kilometers, yeah. Our zone coastline. Yeah. Meanwhile, criminal group and all of the factors income is one of the challenges that the government, especially our enforcement agencies, have to dealing with. Next. Yeah, group next slide, please. Okay, there is the areas, the economic exclusive zones, and also territorial water of Sabah, Malaysia, Sabah and Sarawak, Borneo, yeah, in particular. Next. Next. There is the map belong to the Malaysian Maritime Enforcement Agencies, yeah. Area DM, it's a maritime district that they have to cover, yeah. in Tawau, Sandakan, and also in Kudat. Next, please. Here is the proximity, yeah, Taganak Island. Here, it is only a few kilometers from Sandakan, Taganak. Yeah. If you look next group, next slide, please. Here is the map between Sampurna and also several islands in the Philippines. Sibutu in the Philippines, for example, Sitangkai is very close to Sampurna. It's only about a few kilometers. And as I mentioned just now, Pangguan Island, for example, Malamanok, Pangguan or Malamanok Island is only about 15 kilometers, yeah, from Mataking Island in Sampurna. Next. As comrades, 5 migrants sleeping in red trails amid a tight border watch. As I mentioned just now, even though we have our ops benteng to control to stop them from coming, but it seems difficult because of the geographical factors, the existence of red trails and many other factors, geographical factors. Next. Pending issue between neighboring countries, yeah. Actually, there are several pending issues between Malaysia and neighboring countries, in which is all of these issues actually hinder the cooperation. Malaysia and the Philippines relation, because of all these ways, has been overshadowed with the issue of Sabah claim by the Philippines. The fact that Manila have reiterated several times its claim towards Sabah, and this complicated the issue, yeah. Issue of Manila consulate in the absence of Manila consulate in Sabah, issue of refugees in Sabah, Filipino refugees in Sabah, and also at the same time, we also between Malaysia and Indonesia, we also have a problem with border issue in Celebes and Sebatik Island, for example, especially overlapping claim in Balat area, land border issue in Sabah, Kalimantan borders, yeah, Indonesian foreign workers in Sabah, and many other issues, yeah. But again, I want to emphasize here that all of this issue, actually pending issue between the Malaysian and neighboring countries, actually it has become a hindrance, yeah. The cooperation between these two neighboring countries. Next. Trilateral cooperation, yeah. Actually, it is about limitation of trilateral cooperation. Even though in 14 July 2016, Malaysia, Philippines, and Indonesia signed trilateral cooperative arrangement, yeah. It is a framework as a mechanism to operationalize immediate measures to address security issue in Sulu Celebes Sea, and at the same time, it also facilitate further cooperation among the three countries. Under the TCA, yeah, under the TCA, there are several cooperation, including Trilateral Maritime Patrol, Trilateral Air Patrol, Maritime Command Center in Tarakan, Tawau, and also in Bungau. It's also encourage cooperation, involve information and sharing intelligence, reservoirs at sea, joint working group meeting on trilateral cooperative arrangement, transit corridor of merchant vessel deployment of licensed officer, and many other cooperation, yeah, under the TCA. However, even though it is in theory, this trilateral, this TCA seems perfect and be able to control, to manage the issue of cross-border crime in Sabah. However, issue of pride, yeah, related to the issue, pending issue between Malaysia and Indonesia, as I mentioned just now, issue of state sovereignty, little experiences in joint operation, especially in this Sulu Celebes region, limited resources of all signatories, larger maritime areas. All of these actually hampers and make the cooperation less effective. And there is the fact that even though that we have a trilateral cooperation, but all of these issues actually become a hindrance. Yeah, it is make the cooperation less effective. Next. Here is the signing of framework of arrangement trilateral maritime patrol, yeah, between Malaysia, Indonesia, and the Philippines in Jakarta, 14 July 2016. Next, please. Trilateral cooperative arrangement. Next. Here is the document. Here is the latest in 2020. Muhammad Sabu, and also counterpart Prabowo in Indonesia. Next. Malaysia security priority. Yeah. Bilateral threat in the South China Sea, or overlapping claim in Celebes Sea, or other issue in Strait of Malacca. These all become a challenges. Yeah. In 2016, for example, it was disclosed that there are about 100 Chinese registered vessels has been detected in Lokoni shoals, Beting Patinggi Ali, yeah, in Sarawak. In Auditor General report revealed that between 2016 and 2019, China Coast Guard have encroached into the Malaysian water 89 times, yeah, between that period, yeah. In 2019, for example, ASEAN Maritime Transparency Initiative revealed that China Coast Guard vessels spent 70% of 258 days in a year, yeah, in 2019, patrolling the South China Sea claimed by Malaysia. What more, when we look at what happened in last few, early this year, yeah, when 16 Chinese planes entering Malaysian airspace, it is also actually become, it arises, pose a question, what actually our Malaysian security priority? You want to focus with limited asset, logistic and whatever? What actually do you want to prioritize in this issue? You want to go for South China Sea? You want to go for Sulu Celebes Sea, or you want to go to Strait of Malacca? The fact that when the country facing with pandemic, all resources has been channeled to deal with COVID, and there is make things, I mean, too many issues, security threat in this region, in Malaysia, actually is a challenges, yeah. Especially when we relate the issue with what the next slide, yeah. Lack of asset and logistic and manpower in Malaysia security. Next, please. Okay, the area in South China Sea claimed by Malaysia and other claimants. Yeah. Next. Here is the 16, yeah, China aircraft entering Malaysian borders airspace. Yeah. Next, please. Yeah. Next. Okay, related to that issue, when we have a problem, which is our security, Malaysia security priority. We have a pandemic lately, and again, it is a very challenging times for Malaysia. Yeah, lack of security, lack of asset, logistic, and manpower become one of the challenges. Yeah, due to the budget constraint, lack of maritime assets become major challenges in dealing with security threat, especially in the Sulu Celebes Sea. Yeah. Despite most of the security threats are maritime in nature, the problem, there is the issue, yeah, the army gets the lion's share of the military budget, yeah. Recently, when the government deployed most of its enforcement agency and security forces to combat COVID-19, issue of asset, logistic, and manpower continue to become a key concern, yeah. With a large area of territory and increasing complex form of threat, it is clear that Malaysia is not ready to face new threat due to this constraint. I mean, lack of asset, logistic, and manpower. Yep. Next. There is another issue: different command and competition between security agencies in Malaysia. Yeah. Different command and standard operation procedure between and among security agencies problematic. Yeah. Why? This different command make it is led to the competition and complicated security operations. ESCOM, for example, due to the different command between the police and also military, two major players, two major organizations in ESCOM structure, ultimately slow down and hamper any operation. This inter-agency rivalry spill over to other security operations, especially related to intelligence sharing and also coordination as well as inter-agency cooperation. Even though several measures has been taken to deal with the issue, I mean, different command, for example, in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, the government issue what they call it executive order, yeah, to deal with different command. The government issue with issuing the executive order, yeah, giving the commander of ESCOM the power to command. But again, it continues until today. I believe it is continue until today. It's become a major challenges, and definitely I believe it's effectiveness of security operations. Yeah. Next. I think this is the last one. One of the critical issues in understanding security in Malaysia is about local, public, and also private awareness. Yeah. Even though we have a to say in simple words that to have a successful policy and measures to deal with any security issues, first of all, we must have a support from the public and also the private sector. Yeah. But the problem now, here is the problem. We have, for example, in the east coast of Sabah, especially for Azon, to stop kidnapping of ransom from occur in our water in Malaysia, in Sulu Celebes Sea, the ESCOM, for example, they instructed it is compulsory for all vessels, yeah, because fishing vessel has become target by the kidnapping for ransom group. Therefore, the government make it compulsory to install automatic informatic identification system. It is a vessel identification system to detect their location in time of emergency, for example. Yeah. However, the problem now, most of the vessels, especially fishing vessels in this area, are reluctant to install this software. Yeah, to install the hardware because of several factors, such as the reasons. There are too many reasons: high cost of the system, AI system. But sometimes they are also encroaching other territories. For example, encroaching Philippines territories, encroaching Indonesian waters, for example. This is also explain why they are reluctant to install AI automatic identification system, yeah, which is a vessel identification system to detect the geolocation, especially during the emergencies. Yeah. Another example is Beaufort incident in 2002. Yeah, June 2002. Although the ASG's quarters area, yeah, is close to local resident housing, the nearby local. But the problem, because it seems that local they don't mind, they don't care what happened in their neighborhoods, yeah, in their backyard, and what happened. They don't care about it until it's revealed that ASG member have been kidnapped and killed. Yeah. So I want to say, as long as the issue of public support and also the private support, economic stakeholders in the state is not cooperate, is not support to any government's policies, it's continue become a major challenges in managing security in the east coast of Sabah, especially. Next. Next, Jay, please. There is the answers, or there is the paper, yeah, yeah, in Beaufort, yeah. Next. Next. Sabah vessels to install AI system in 2 weeks. It is a compulsory, but most of the vessels are reluctant, as I mentioned just now. There are many factors, cost, and also because of some of them are encroaching international waters to Philippines waters and also Indonesian waters. Next. In conclusion, based on the discussion, it demonstrates that Malaysia alone is sufficient to deal with the non-traditional threat, as it need to integrate non-military approach in dealing with the issue. Here again, as I mentioned just now, the public and private support, especially economic stakeholder, is crucial. Yeah, Sabah economy is crucial, especially to deal with any issue related to the security in Sabah. Yeah. Simultaneously, it is also evident that Malaysian government will not be able to handle this problem alone, as it's also required the cooperation of its neighboring countries, particularly the Philippines and also Indonesia. Here I want to say actually ESCOM cannot stand alone, cannot be a standalone organization. In order for ESCOM to succeed, he had to work with the counter. Thank you. Hello.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Ramli. I think Dr. Wan want to add something. The last slide, would you?
Yeah.
We have a few more minutes before we come to the question and answer session.
Okay. I'm sorry about the the problem
Yeah,
just now that I faced. Actually, is the battery, which automatically, went dead. Jay, we stop at increase in defense budget. Okay, it's okay, it's okay. Jay, okay. The government also allocated, 660 million to set up 2 new battalions of the general police camp, especially in S zone, to handle the east coast of Sabah, and another army battalion camp will be set up close to Felda Sahabat in Lahad Datu. It shows that in terms of numbers, the government need to increase the army and as well as the general police in order to handle security in the east coast of Sabah, and especially in Lahad Datu, which has been which experienced incursion from the southern Philippines. Jay, next. Okay. Next is the Malaysian government bilateral efforts. I think the fact that both Malaysia and also the Philippines realize the need to have bilateral cooperation in handling security issues is something very significant, especially when it deals with the border of Malaysia and the Philippines. And before that, I think it was during the 60s, both governments managed to settle smuggling issues, which has been a big problem for the Philippines because goods smuggled from Sabah, especially Sempurna, Sandakan, and Lahad Datu, has found its way to southern Philippines, the Sulu archipelago, and also area close to Mindanao. And since 1994, we have the Border Patrol Committee Group. One of the initiatives is the FIMAL, implemented from November 1995 and held once a year. Jay, next. Next, Jay. Next is Philippines response. It was in 1972 when Marcos imposed martial law, and the fact that martial law was being imposed by Marcos led to the war between, MNLF with the government forces, and it resulted in more than 57,000 to 70,500 refugees fleeing the Sulu archipelago to Sabah. And this is something which Sabah has to, face until now, because although the fact that the war, which started in 1972, has already gone, for 4 or 5 decades, but the refugees, the Filipino refugees who are Muslim, they are still now in Sabah, and many of them pass away, and they have, children who are already married, and some of them very, very unlucky because they tend to, because they are undocumented, because of, issues related to them. There are many issues resulting in these people, end up as undocumented. Or
okay. Time.
Come again? Oh, time. Next, Jay.
May conclude, I guess.
Come again?
You may conclude
next,
in
Jay.
1 minute, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Next, I think the fact that the armed forces of the Philippines, they played a major role in handling, not only the MNLF and also MILF, but also the Partido Comunista ng Pilipinas, or HAP, and also the New People's Army. Jay, next. And since US left the Philippines, the armed forces of Philippines has experienced a serious degradation of its combat arsenal, and this resulted in, they lost $200 of rental money, which normally they will spend 80% on the armed forces of Philippines. Jay, next. Also important is the fact that the Philippines government, while they utilized the armed forces, they also resorted to peace talks, which happened in 1972 involving MNLF, and then, however, it didn't materialize, and it was only in 1996 that something happened, which with the establishment of ARMM, headed by Nur Mizwari and MNLF. And in 1986, the peace talk involving the government and also CCP and New People's Army. Jay, next. Apart from that, we have the AFP, West Mincom, which has been the authority in the Mindanao and also Sulu archipelago, and as a result of the presence of West Mincom, resulted in the AFP managed to somehow defeated the Abu Sayyaf group. Okay. Next, Jay. Next. And I think lastly, the US military assistance to the Philippines. You know, it's a burden for the Philippines to have you know, suffered a loss of 200 million US dollars. Okay, and this resulted in, you know, the ARM to rely on the US defense. And here, for instance, after 9/11, the Philippines tend to, you know, receive military assistance from the US. J next. And J next, okay. It really, you know, with the assistance from US, managed to assist the Philippines in facing the problems from the Abu Sayyaf and, you know, whatnot. And Jay, finally, the introduction of the Anti-Terrorist Act 2020, replacing the Human Security Act, which is a very important weapon that has been used by the government. Yes, the introduction of this Anti-Terrorist Act 2020 has been criticized for, you know, not human rights friendly, but the fact that this is the weapon, the only weapon that the Philippines government have to face problems from the extremists and also Abu Sayyaf group. I think in conclusion, what I can say is, yes, the fact that both, you know, Malaysia and the Philippines responses, but despite the responses, what's happening on the ground is very, very important. For instance, one issue that probably would be a spoiler to the BAR bomb, okay, is the fact that the decommissioning involving, if I'm not mistaken, more than 40,000 MILF fighters, which somehow the leaders, you know, involved in the peace talk with the government failed to address. The decommissioning issue is very important because it involves 40,000 MILF fighters, and if, for instance, MILF and also the government fail to address this, then the 40,000 fighters will tend to point their gun or weapon to the government and also to the BAM government. I think I would like to end my presentation there. Thank you very much for the time. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you very much for all presenters. I don't want to comment anything, but I want to go straight to the. There are two things in the chat box here now. As you can see, One is the observation made by the participant. If you wish to respond to that, I don't want to read. You can have a look at it. But we have a few questions here. Let me begin by looking at one of these. Yeah, I think one that is considered to be question is, could you explain what are the non-security initiatives has been taken to build the public resilience and support, and how effective they are? I think this question is related to you, Dr. Wan, and also Dr. Ramli. To what extent that non-security initiative that has been taken in order to build resilient and public support? And the other question from Azila, did the security issue threat in Sabah is strong enough to be classified one of the national security concern in Malaysia? I'm curious about panel's opinion, since some of the academicians I know disagree with that point. So I think this is related to Adin. So yeah, the floor is yours.
Probably Dr. Ramli wanted to start first.
I think that Chewan, if you can proceed first, because Dr. Ramli is still trying to connect, still trying to resolve his internet connection.
Or maybe you can go first then, because oh yeah, Chewan is back. Yeah, please.
No, Adin, please.
Okay, the question from Azila, did the security threats in Sabah is strong enough to be classified as one of a national security concern? I think you're talking about here about whether the threat is especially you have to identify, we are dealing with two kinds of threat. One is from external, such as Abu Sayyaf group, and then the other one is from domestic, such as there might be an existence of Darul Islam Sabah.
Hello, Dean. Can anybody hear? Adin, are you there? Sorry for the, I think the line is breaking up. Okay, we can hear you. Yeah, that's correct. We lost her too. Anybody on the line? Cik Wan, Ramli, you want to respond to any of those questions? While waiting for they are coming back, I'm sure they have a very terrible coverage in there right now. I may respond to the question by Azila. I believe that maybe you can refer to the. Yeah,
Hello?
go ahead. Yeah,
I'm really sorry. I didn't know that my connection just went off just now. Did I manage to? Did you hear my my answer just now, Dr. Ahmed?
No, we lost most of your response to that actually. Could you like more or less recap what you have said?
Right. Okay. So I think we have to look at the threats from two perspectives. One is external and one is internal. And as far as we're concerned, we're dealing more serious threat with the external, such as the SG and also KFR's presence in the east coast of Sabah. And as for internal, I think such as the recent SG presence inside Sabah, and also there might be likely an existence of Darul Islam based on prima facie analysis. It's not a concrete finding. So regardless any situation, whether you can say the threat is low or severe, the Malaysian state took very seriously on this issue in dismantling any elements that can pose as a national security threats. There is no compromise on these issues. I hope I have addressed the question just now. And can I pass?
Yeah, I would like
Yeah.
I would like to add, maybe Azila can refer to national security policy. It is available in the MKN website, National Security Council website. Is actually identify Sabah threat as one of the national security issues as well, given the nature of that. Can we have Dr. Wan and Dr. Ramli back in online?
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead, Dr. Wan. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay,
you
thank you very much.
You might try
Sorry.
to switch on your video.
Okay, sorry for poor connection. Yeah, internet connection here. Okay, first of all,
Very poor. Yeah, go ahead.
okay, first of all, I'll try to answer question whether kidnapping for ransom or is considered as a threat to national security in Malaysia. Yeah, it is a threat to national security in Malaysia. Why? If you look at for example, the seriousness, yeah, the seriousness of the government in handling the issue, we can say it is one of the indicator. First, the government decided to establish, to set up ESCOM, it is one of the indicator to show that how serious the threat to the kidnapping for ransom for Sabah security. Second, if you look at the budget, yeah, military budget for national security, in 2010, for example, if I'm not mistaken, for example, yeah, 1/3 of the budget for military defense in Malaysia as a whole went to the east coast of Sabah. This is one of the indicator. Yeah. Third, why we should consider kidnapping for ransom or any activities in east coast of Sabah as a threat to national security. Third, look at what happened when the most of the foreign countries, especially the United States, Japan, Belgium, Australia, even United Kingdom, and many other countries, almost every year they issue what we call it as a travel warning or travel advisor to the citizens. Yep. And this implies that the Sabah itself is not safe for their citizen. There are many indicators that we can use to say that actually kidnapping for ransom and other militant activities in the east coast of Sabah is one of the major threat to the national security. How? Because of the seriousness of the government. How serious? Because look at the ESCOM, for example, look at the budget, for example, 1/3 of the national security budget went to the east coast of Sabah. The travel warning, for example, how the cooperation between Indonesia, Malaysia, and also the Philippines, for example, is demonstrate the seriousness of the issue, and that's why we also should consider this issue as a threat to national security. Yeah, but again, as I mentioned just in my presentation, we also have a problem, challenges. Yeah, in dealing with the issue, there are many challenges that we have to face. Yeah. Okay, that's one. That is the first question. The answer for the whether we should consider KFR as a threat to the national security issue. The second one is
Dr. Ramli, I will address that issue.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, before we do that, I mean, I would like to seek the apology to the participant because we are exceeding time a little bit. Hopefully that you can indulge with us to allow the panelists to respond to the question. Yeah, Cik Wan, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry for the interruption. To the question, approach by ESCOM. Yeah, the fact that ESCOM is a security agency is something which we have to we cannot deny. But whenever we face problems, especially in the east coast of Sabah, we need also to utilize a non-military approach. Okay, for instance, non-military approach here is how, for instance, ESCOM can win the heart and minds of the communities in East Coast of Sabah, because without, winning the hearts and minds of the communities in, especially in the East Coast of Sabah, especially the water village population, then it would be problematic. Why? Because we wanted the communities in the water villages to be, the ears for the government whenever criminal entities entered their water village. They should, by right, as a citizen, or if not, they should share the info, this info, with the authorities. And this is something actually very difficult for the ESCOM to execute it. But I think that whether you like it or not, you have to do it. You have to be practical in this sense if you want to address the issue. There's no way ESCOM can handle everything. Okay, there's no way ESCOM cannot handle everything. So in this issue, I think by winning the heart and minds of the communities is very important. A very I think quite difficult to do by ESCOM, but whatever reason, they have to make sure that they can somehow tackle the communities in the water village in the East Coast of Sabah. I think this is very important. We have to accept the fact that, and if we fail to address this issue, I think it would be very problematic, and especially when suddenly we realize that, out of the blue, okay, suddenly we realize that Abu Sayyaf has already been in our society. They have been on our shore, which actually we should prevent it from happening. But why? The failure of, as I've mentioned earlier, to win the hearts and minds of the communities, which is, something which ESCOM, whether they like it or not, they have to do it. Go to the ground. I think that's all.
I think, Cik Wan, you can also respond to the question by Genawati, who are asking about the implementing early warning system, I think, regarding the violent extremism. What do we do to address the problem through developing the early warning system?
Okay.
And then we go to the next question. Yeah, go ahead.
The early warning system is something which is probably has been a practice in Western society, and I think it is also part and parcel of what I have already spoken just now, by winning the hearts and minds of the communities, because this can be, automatically, if we manage to convince the communities in the East Coast of Sabah, probably then, they can be our early warning system, because they are the one who will relay the infos to the security agencies. By doing that, we actually are very practical, because we use human being, rather than machine or assets that probably Western societies do practice. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
There is a more interesting question coming up, but I hope that we do not take so much time of this. Maybe within 5 minutes, we can address a few important questions. For example, Edmund was asking about how deep is Malaysia intelligence network to confirm or deny there are involvement of some Malaysian military and political official in those problems at the border. And then what is the response of the panelists about the movement of capital city of Indonesia from Jakarta to Kalimantan, right? Is there any possibility to security threat from Sulu Sea will change their target? And then also, is there any endeavor to establish multilateral counterterrorism organization between Malaysia, Philippines, and Indonesia? And then, is there any connection between barter trade, transshipments, activity in funding ASG and or any extremist group? Wow, this is very, you know, very, I mean, very hot question, I would say. What are the opinions? Hang on. What are the opinion of the speaker about the statement we're supposed to treat based on the threat for national security? So I think that we have a couple of questions that you may choose any of those questions to respond. Floor is yours.
I can begin first.
Okay. Okay, please.
Just very quick about, I think I can sum up two of the questions on the Jakarta's capital cities of Indonesia from Jakarta moving to Kalimantan, and whether there is any endeavor to establish multilateral counterterrorism organization between Malaysia, Philippines, and Indonesia. I think as far as I'm concerned, Malaysia's Philippines relation in terms of counterterrorism operation is quite exists, and this is why we managed to detain, to capture some of SG's elements this year. In terms of Indonesia, I think this is something that these three countries needs to take into consideration, especially in securing the porous border between Kalimantan to its Sabah and then to its southern Philippines, and then of course the Greater Sulu Celebes Sea. With the move from Jakarta to Kalimantan, I think securing the border should be comes in the first hand. As I've presented earlier, there has been quite large numbers of Indonesian foreign terrorist fighters flood to southern Philippines, and of course, I think they might have been traveling somewhere using these porous borders routes. So yeah, I agree that these three countries needs to take into consideration to enhance cooperation in order to control the threat. And we have to also realize, we have to remember that with the rise of the Taliban, some of these elements might be even feel motivated to engage in further in prospective future militancy. Pass to you, Prof. Wan. Maybe you can answer some of the question here.
Yeah, we're gonna start at 11:20, so you may respond within that
to
time
address
period.
this first, the barter trade, whether it has been used by a criminal element. I think to respond to the question, I think the fact that there are elements that, you know, they are taking advantage of the barter trade by also smuggling, okay? They smuggle goods. And hopefully they are not weapons or drugs, you know, but probably food or, you know. So I think that's okay. But what if it involves, okay? What if it involves drug and arms? So I think this is something which is those who are involved in barter trade should avoid, because then they are, you know, just taking their own risk to be a spoiler for this barter trade. entity to be something which both countries can share. And then for the first question just now by Edmund, I think, yeah, the fact that in terms of intel, okay, Malaysian intels, yeah, they, of course, they managed to collect many infos related to, especially when we talk about the incursion of the Sulu Sultanate in 2013. Yes, the intels do collect, but somehow a failure do occur, especially to the intels, and it end up with, you know, we have to face the incursion from the Sulu Sultanate and also the Royal Sulu Force. But, you know, after that, a good lesson after, you know, 2016 with the cooperation that we have with the TCA. One thing which I think which is very significant is the fact that intel from Westmincom and also ESCOM managed to gather, you know, and share intel information, and this resulted in a very positive, you know, sign when we managed to get hold of Abu Sayyaf, who wanted to spread their wing in Sabah. So I think this is something which we managed to utilize in terms of intel sharing between both Malaysia and also the Philippines in handling, you know, issues that are related to security. And as for the capital city shift from Jakarta to Kalimantan Timur, okay, I think the Indonesian government has found a good location for them to build a new capital. But apart from that, I think the Indonesian security as well need to, you know, anticipate that like Malaysia or Sabah, they have to face Southern Philippines or issues related to Southern Philippines. Then I think Indonesia also will face the problem if they forget to address issues in the Philippines. Yes, the fact that both countries, Indonesia and the Philippines, they are, you know, although they have problems at the border, especially, you know, at the Sangihe island, but they managed to settle this dispute, okay, peacefully. But I think in future with the new capital in Kalimantan Timur, okay, these are issues that Indonesia have to anticipate, you know, issues that come from Southern Philippines. So in other words, it will not only Sabah who will face problems if, let's say, the government in Southern in Manila, for instance, cannot handle, for instance, bomb, okay, to realize their hope for the Moros, then it will be problematic as well as to Sabah and also to Indonesia. I think that's all from me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the time has expired. So I wish to thank you again. But there is one last question from May Seril, but I think I will take on that. So far, we do not see any changes of Malaysia's foreign policy regarding Sabah, despite the changes of government. Actually, the government is more concerned about the problem of health security and also their security rather than security in Sabah. And I think after everything settled down, maybe yeah, there would be a more coherent or more tangible policies in there, if there is any. So I wish to thank you all.
In addition to that, actually, COVID.
Yeah, COVID is keep on rising right now. So I think that's all for now. Thank you very much, all the panelists, Adin, Cik Wan, Dr. Wan, and also Dr. Ramli for your presentation. And also, Catherine, is it okay for me to pass you back? Are you going to take pictures? Huh?
Yes, yes.
If you can screenshot the session for us,
Yeah,
if
sure, no
everyone would like to switch on